Hello, welcome to our garage welding series. This is something we've wanted to do, and now that we're distance learning, it's a perfect time to get this started. For the students, we were going to start wire feed right after spring break, so you were going to be doing some of this if we were in school or not. And for everyone else, this is a good, easily accessible way to do welding at home. If you're interested in making some things on your own, or just doing another craft, another skill, or you really want to make something, save yourself some money instead of having somebody do it for you, this is a good way to do it. So like I said, the equipment it's most easily accessible. You can buy it at Lowe's or any regular store. It's not anything you have to go to a special store for. It's cheap, relatively speaking, and relative to other more specialized welding equipment. And because it's cheap, it's usually for temporary use. It's not something you're going to use every day for a living. It's not something, it's not heavy duty industrial type stuff. And then usually small things, small equipment that are easy to store. And that's what we're going to use right now. Everything that we're going to use in this series is going to have to fit in those categories somehow. And again, it's because you need to be able to do it at home. It needs to be easy and accessible. Also, not special electricity is going to be needed. We want to do everything on 120 volts, not 220. We will get into that later, but not everybody has that in the garage. Usually it's just in the washroom with the dryer and the washer, right? So we'll start with just what you can plug into the regular outlet in the wall. And what we're going to start with is flux core welding with a machine like this. We'll talk about how it works, the pros and cons, things like that, what you're going to need. But before we do that, so to do any kind of garage welding, you're going to need some basic equipment that you can't really go without. Obviously, you need the welder and the welding machine and all the stuff that goes with it. You need PPE so you don't hurt yourself in your garage. Gloves, glasses. You'll need the welding equipment, welding gloves, welding glasses, welding hood, welding gloves. I think I already said that. Pants, boots. I wouldn't be doing any of this stuff in chanclas and shorts in the driveway. It's not a good idea. Some hearing protection would be helpful if you have some left over from class. Welding wise, the machine doesn't come with anything, so you'll need to get your own wire brush, some kind of a pick or a file to help clean your welds up, some kind of a plier, channel lock, something to pick up hot metal with so you don't touch it with your hands or gloves, and some extra consumable pieces, some contact tips especially. But we'll get into more of the details later. And then you'll need the welding wire also, the flux core wire that's in here. But like I said, we'll get into the details of everything you need for the machine a little bit later. Safety wise too, you're gonna need something to put out fires with. You gotta be very careful you don't burn your house down. So we'll talk more specifically about that, but a fire extinguisher doesn't hurt. A bucket of water handy nearby or a hose, but definitely a ABC fire extinguisher. Some material handling things like a table to work on. I have just a makeshift piece of plywood and some other things that we'll be using. I made a little metal welding platform too. Like I said, in addition to the pliers to hold the metal, some kind of a clamp to clamp things down, hold things in place. Measuring tools. I didn't have my tape measure out here, but a tape measure or a ruler or something like that to measure with. A speed square to help line things up. Definitely a level will come in handy. There's hardly a time that you don't use these things. And something to write with. I usually use the pick to just to scribe. My scribe, I left it at school, so. But anything will work. A pencil, a Sharpie. The only thing with things like that with ink, when you get them real hot, when you're cutting or you're welding, that ink disappears. So I like to leave something that doesn't go away. Soapstone works too, but I don't have that right now. But either way, I like to scribe. Scribing makes a real nice, fine, shiny line on dark metal, and it doesn't go away. And you can always see it, even when you're wearing a welding hood or a face shield, something like that. You'll need something to cut metal with. So we have our chop saw here with an abrasive disc. Makes a lot of sparks. This particular one doesn't make that many sparks, but it still does. So you got to be careful where you use it. But a reciprocating saw will work too, or some people call it a sawzall. You can see some metal blades for jigsaw. They make radial saws, like a skill saw that'll cut metal. There's some blades that do that. But this is probably your best bet. And if you can borrow one, borrow it, or just buy it. Try to find a used one, but depends on what you buy, how much it's going to cost. But this is kind of what you need to start with. And the welding hood, I don't have it here on the table, is definitely something else you do. A higher priced item you might need to get that's not on the table right now. But overall, price wise, you're looking at about $500 to start. Just start sticking metal together, give or take. Depends on what kind of deals you find, what kind of coupons you have. And we can talk later on more about which machines you could buy and the different prices for those. But that's how much it's going to cost you to start off with. So this costs about $200, and you have to buy some other things to go with it. It made it about $240, $230. These run around $200, sometimes $150. You can find the cheaper ones, the Harbor Freight ones, for a little bit less. Or like I said, you just borrow one from somebody. Or go with the other routes, like the reciprocating saw. You can find one for $20. A grinder I didn't mention. Grinder always comes in handy. It's not totally necessary for right now, but that's definitely a basic tool for welding. It's a grinder with a grinding disc. But you could also get cutting discs for those and use those to cut metal instead of having this. So you make that one tool do more than one thing. The wire wheel on the grinder I use all the time, and that you'll see it later in the other videos, that I use that to prep and clean metal after I weld it. So a grinder also, that'll cost you anywhere from $30 to $150, depending on how good of one you want to buy. But I just saw some really good ones at Lowe's for $50, so not bad. So you're up to almost $300 there, plus whatever you spend on your radial saw. You're in the $450, $500 range, plus whatever you spend on your welding hood. You can spend anywhere from $30 all the way to $450 for a real nice welding hood. But if you're just welding in your garage and that's the extent of your welding, $30 Harbor Freight one is gonna do the job. So again, on tools, like I said, you can have fancy tools, fancy equipment, or you can go over the Harbor Freight way, or the little lower brands, Walmart brands. It just depends how much you're going to use them, and I've heard the term, use them until you break them and then buy the good ones. And if you use them enough, you're going to break the cheaper quality tools. But if you're going to use it only occasionally, then why spend the extra money? Unless you just really want to have that tool for a long time, then that's fine. I'm not going to say don't invest in good tools, especially if you know you're going to use them often. And you do get what you pay for in a lot of this stuff. But sometimes, you may not need that much, so you don't have to spend that much on when it comes to equipment like the welding machines and stuff. But we'll talk about that in another video. So like I said, this is for students at home right now that maybe wanted to get into something like this, maybe to borrow some of this equipment and get started in the garage or the backyard, or any adults out there that are looking to learn a new skill. If you have any questions, email me, let me know. The students email me or get with me in our Google Classroom, and tune into the other videos, and we'll get started with all this.